Imagine ourselves 100 years ago. Above the rumble, a shrill alarm whined out continuously into the night. The company whistle gave the signal to evacuate the mine. You hear that above the rumble? 200 miners were still on shift. Others had been brought up earlier. Gary Snyder, the Ready Bullion electrician, had anticipated a catastrophe at the next high tide. He was home when the alarm sounded and immediately took off on a run through Treadwell, a mile down to the Ready Bullion. Mile down there. As he passed the Mexican mine shaft house, it exploded with timbers flying in all directions. Immense air pressure had built up underground as millions of gallons of water rushed through the riddled earthen pockets. In all the mines, hoist operators ran the cages up and down to every level, halting at the various stations, bringing frightened miners to the surface as rock continued to fall from the underground walls as water collected in the shafts. Wernicke went down to investigate along with the shift boss and the assistant superintendent to make sure that all miners were out. Stopping to check at the 1,250-foot level, Wernicke felt fresh incoming air and heard a distant rumble in the adjacent 700-foot mine. He ran back to the shaft just in time to see the cage going to the surface. He yelled to the cager, "Hurry back, the mine's caving." So when the cage came back, it went by him down to the 1,600-foot level, picked up 2 other miners, and returned after only 3 or 4 minutes. Can you imagine how long those 3 or 4 minutes were? But by then, the rumble had become a roar, and rocks were dropping from the backs and sides of the walls of the stopes. As the cage began its ascent, a sheet of rock, water, and sand hit the occupants. At the 900-foot level, the pump tender, still at his post, dove through a 4-inch sheet of water right into the cage. After giving the 3-bell emergency signal to surface quickly, the cage shot up the shaft. At 500 feet, above the flood waters, the cage suddenly halted, dropped 25 feet, and stopped with a jolt. The carbide lamps on the miner's helmets went out. Attempts to light matches failed because everything was wet. 5 minutes passed in dark, damp stillness. 5 minutes is a long time, right in there. Then the cage slowly moved upward. At 1:30 a.m., the shaking men stepped from the cage. An hour and 45 minutes had passed since the alarm sounded. The mine was evacuated and all men but one accounted for. At 1:15 a.m., the small group standing vigil watched as the ground around the natatorium and fire hall slipped sideways, then with cracks, let me hear some cracks, groans and noises of shattering boards dropped straight down into the innards of the mine. The oil tank near the central hoist collapsed and twisted. The incoming tide reached flood stage, and the volume of the water rushing into the cave-in became a mighty river the size of the Yukon River at White Horse Rapids. This ominous thundering sound, unlike the familiar pounding rhythm of the stamp, was heard a mile away in downtown Douglas. Water flooding the mines continued a patterned dance. The hole filled for a time, the water slacked, and then with a roar, a volume of water would increase again as if some dam had given away. And this went on for an interminable hour. Finally, at 2:15 a.m., after another eruption at the cave-in site, a 200-foot geyser of salt water. So where would that be to? What's the 200-foot geyser of salt water looking like? Shot out of the top of the central shaft. The spouting display went on for a full 5 minutes before it stopped, like fireworks announcing a finale. After a harrowing 3.5 hours, the mine was full. In those 45 miles of mine shafts and drifts underlying the town to a depth of 2,800 feet, those ancient geologic pockets that gave up 10 million tons of gold-bearing ore were now filled with 3 million tons of seawater. By 7 a.m., the sky with its hidden moon had faded into a bland pre-dawn gray. The savage tide was at its ebb, and the channel flowed by, no longer a threat. That was 100 years ago.